Imagine waking before the sun rises. The world still wrapped in a soft, cool darkness, with dew on the leaves and the earth beneath your feet slightly damp. Your stomach is empty, and every small sound, the rustle of a branch, the distant call of a bird, or the whisper of wind through the grass, carries meaning. Your survival, and the survival of your group, depends on what you notice, how carefully you move, and how much you remember from the countless mornings before. Every step, every glance, every pause could lead to the food that will sustain you through the long day, or leave you empty-handed until tomorrow. And now, as the first light spreads across the land, let us step quietly into the world of early humans, following them through the day as they search, discover, and survive, one meal at a time. The night loosens its grip slowly, not with a sudden break of light, but with a pale thinning of darkness. Bodies stir on hard ground, joints stiff from cold and age, breaths visible in the fading chill. There is no signal to rise, no agreed moment, only a shared restlessness that spreads through the group. Sleep ends not because it is finished, but because remaining still no longer makes sense. Muscles demand movement, and the quiet discomfort inside the body grows impossible to ignore. The camp carries the smell of ash and damp earth. A few embers survive from the fire kept alive through the night, guarded carefully as if it were another living member of the group. Someone feeds it dry grass, coaxing it back to life, not for warmth alone, but for what it promises later. Others sit up slowly, rubbing their arms, their attention already drifting beyond the shelter of familiar faces toward the open land. Thoughts form without words, shaped by memory rather than language. The body remembers how long it has been since anything was eaten, remembers the cost of waiting too long. Children wake first, restless and unburdened by caution, but quickly quieted by older hands. Energy must be saved. Movements are measured, not rushed, because strength is never guaranteed. The smallest noises carry meaning: the rustle of leaves, distant calls, the sudden silence of insects. These are not background sounds but messages. Each morning begins with listening, because the world often reveals its opportunities before it reveals its dangers. Faces turn toward the horizon, reading the sky as carefully as tracks in soil, clouds, wind, and temperature-shaped decisions long before anyone takes a step. A dry morning suggests one kind of search, a damp one another. No discussion is needed. Shared experience does the talking. Knowledge lives in the body, passed through years of watching and copying, not through instruction. Those who survived long enough to show signs of age did so by trusting these unspoken signals. The group does not move as one immediately. Some remain near the shelter, conserving energy, while others prepare to leave. Tools are checked with fingers rather than eyes, edges tested, bindings tightened. A broken point today could mean nothing found before nightfall. Every object has already proven its worth many times. Nothing is decorative, nothing unnecessary. Even the act of standing carries intention. As light strengthens, the land begins to reveal itself. Paths used before are reconsidered, not followed blindly. What worked yesterday may fail today. Animals shift their routes, plants change with seasons, and water disappears without warning. Survival depends on flexibility, not routine. The first steps away from camp are cautious, scanning for signs left during the night. Disturbed soil, bent grass, droppings still dark with moisture, all are clues stitched together into a larger picture. There is no sense of optimism or despair, only readiness. Expectation would be dangerous. The past has taught them that the land does not reward hope, it responds only to attention. Each step forward is a small wager, each choice narrowing other possibilities. To hesitate too long is to lose daylight, yet to rush is to waste effort. Balance is learned through failure, and failure leaves marks on the body that are never forgotten. Behind them, the shelter remains quiet, holding the faint warmth of sleep and the promise of return. Ahead lies uncertainty, familiar in its unpredictability. This rhythm has shaped bodies and minds over countless generations. carving patience into bone and caution into instinct. The morning does not bring comfort or reassurance. It brings necessity. And necessity, repeated day after day, has taught early humans to rise not with confidence but with resolve. Once distance separates them from the safety of the sleeping place, their pace slows rather than quickens. Walking is no longer simply movement. It becomes a careful exchange with the ground beneath their feet. Eyes stay low, then lift, then return again, tracing patterns that would appear meaningless to an untrained observer. The earth carries stories written softly, and only those who have learned its language can read them before they fade. A shallow depression in the soil suggests weight passed through not long ago. The edges have not yet crumbled, which means time is short. Nearby, grass bends in a direction that does not match the wind, hinting at bodies moving against the flow of air. Fingers hover over these signs without touching them, preserving what little remains. Each mark is considered in relation to the others, never alone. One clue without context can mislead, but together they form a path. The air itself becomes part of the search. A faint odor, carried briefly before vanishing, signals life ahead or decay left behind. Wind direction matters, not for comfort but for strategy. Approaching from the wrong side could scatter animals long before they are seen. Those in front adjust their routes slightly, not stopping to signal, simply shifting their bodies in a way the others understand. Communication happens through movement as much as sound. Above them, birds speak constantly. Sudden bursts of alarm, repeated calls, or an unnatural silence can reveal more than sight ever could. Certain cries suggest a predator, others a carcass already claimed. These sounds are catalogued in memory, associated with outcomes learned through hard experience. A mistake once made is rarely repeated. Consequences tend to be severe enough to teach quickly. Branches snapped at a particular height tell of passing bodies, not storms. Leaves stripped unevenly point to feeding rather than decay. Even stones shifted slightly out of place carry meaning when seen by eyes trained to notice change. Nothing in the landscape is assumed to be accidental. Every detail is weighed, accepted, or dismissed based on familiarity with how the land behaves when untouched. As the group advances, spacing between individuals widens. This is not separation but strategy, allowing more ground to be read at once. Those behind watch those ahead as carefully as they watch the terrain, ready to follow or stop based on subtle cues. A sudden pause can be as important as a signal to move. Stillness often reveals what motion hides. Time stretches in this process. Progress may cover little distance, yet the effort involved is immense. Minds remain alert, resisting the urge to focus on a single promising sign. Fixation is dangerous. The land rewards awareness, not obsession. Many opportunities are missed by those who decide too early. Occasionally, a sign leads nowhere. Tracks scatter, scents dissolve, and sounds fade into nothing. These moments are not met with frustration, only adjustment. The land has not failed. It has simply changed. Experience teaches that persistence does not mean stubbornness. Knowing when to abandon a trail is as valuable as knowing how to follow one. Through this constant interpretation, the environment transforms from empty space into a living guide. Hills, valleys, and tree lines become reference points, not landmarks but memory anchors. Each journey adds another layer of understanding, refining the internal map carried by every adult. This map is never complete, never fixed. It is revised daily, shaped by weather, movement, and chance. By reading what others overlook, early humans turn uncertainty into possibility. Food is never guaranteed, but it is rarely sought blindly. The land speaks quietly, and survival belongs to those who have learned not only how to look, but how to listen. As the signs accumulate and the land offers fragments of possibility, attention turns inward, toward weighing effort against return. No single path satisfies every need, and the group understands this without debate. Experience has carved this knowledge deep. Some pursuits promise abundance, but demand strength, coordination, and luck, while others offer reliability at the cost of time and limited nourishment. Choosing between them is less about preference and more about reading the day itself. Those with the strongest bodies and quickest reflexes shift their focus toward movement ahead. Their posture changes subtly, shoulders set, steps lighter, as if already preparing for sudden bursts of speed. They do not speak of danger. Danger is assumed. Large animals leave more than food behind. They leave broken bones, infections, and absences that weaken everyone. Yet the memory of past successes lingers, not as stories told aloud, but as images held privately. Heavy loads carried back, long evenings of eating, strength restored for days afterward. Others turn their attention to the ground closer at hand. They watch where the soil darkens near water, where certain plants return season after season, where insects gather in predictable patterns. These sources rarely satisfy hunger completely, but they rarely betray. Hands trained to recognize subtle differences separate nourishment from poison, life from illness. Knowledge here is precise and unforgiving. A single error can undo months of caution. The decision is rarely unanimous, and it does not need to be. Roles have formed over time, shaped by age, injury, and skill. Some bodies are no longer suited for sudden violence but carry decades of memory. Others are strong but inexperienced, learning restraint alongside aggression. Children remain with those who move slowly, absorbing lessons not through explanation but through repetition. Energy reserves influence everything. A group already weakened by days of poor returns may be forced to take risks it would otherwise avoid. Strength borrowed from yesterday's success can buy patience today. This calculation happens quietly, instinctively, guided by the body's condition as much as by external signs. There is no shame in caution, no glory in recklessness. Survival does not reward pride. Weather also tips the balance. Rain can hide scent and tracks, favoring one approach, while heat can drain strength faster than it can be replaced. The land does not present the same opportunities every day, and flexibility is essential. Those who fail to adjust are remembered not for their bravery but for their absence. Once choices are made, separation occurs without ceremony. There is trust in this division, built through countless returns and reunions. Each path supports the other. Those who seek moving targets depend on the steady returns of gathered food to sustain them between successes. Those who gather rely on occasional large rewards to restore strength and morale. Neither path stands alone for long. Time unfolds differently for each group. One waits, watches, and moves with patience measured in hours. The other may experience long stretches of repetition, bending, digging, sorting, and carrying. Both forms of labor demand focus. Both carry risk, though of different kinds. Fatigue dulls judgment everywhere. As the sun climbs higher, outcomes begin to take shape, though nothing is certain until the day ends. Decisions made in the cool of morning echo through the hours that follow. Some will return with heavy loads, others with knowledge gained and energy spent. What matters is not which path was chosen, but that the choice was made with care, grounded in awareness rather than impulse. In this balance between danger and reliability, early humans learn not just how to eat, but how to endure. Those who remain behind or move more slowly do not see themselves as waiting. Their work begins the moment paths diverge, guided by an attention tuned to smaller details. The ground close to water is examined where soft soil gives way easily, revealing what lies beneath. Hands dig carefully, feeling for familiar shapes, knowing how deep to search and when to stop. Roots are loosened without tearing, ensuring the plant may return again. This restraint is learned, not out of kindness to the land, but because exhaustion tomorrow is just as dangerous as hunger today. Children move alongside adults, not as burdens but as observers in training. They are shown, not told, what to touch and what to leave alone. A glance, a gentle redirection of the hand, a pause at the edge of danger. Lessons delivered without words. Their curiosity is allowed but guided, because mistakes here do not always offer second chances. Over time, recognition replaces guesswork. The landscape becomes familiar not as a whole, but in pieces each associated with use or avoidance. Berries are tested with caution, compared to memory rather than appetite. Color alone is not enough. Shape, season, and location all matter. Some fruits nourish only briefly before turning harmful. Others are safe only when prepared correctly. Leaves are crushed between fingers, scents judged, sap inspected. Knowledge accumulates quietly, passed across generations without ceremony, refined by loss as much as by success. Insects are gathered with practiced efficiency. Bark is lifted carefully, stones rolled with expectation, nests approached with timing that minimizes risk. Protein comes in many forms, often overlooked by those who seek larger rewards. Eggs are taken sparingly, never from the same place too often. Even here, restraint governs action. The future is always part of the calculation. Nuts are cracked open with tools chosen for the task, not for convenience. Hard shells demand patience and precision. A slip can mean injury that lingers far longer than hunger. Shell fragments are discarded away from gathering sites, reducing signs of repeated visits. This quiet awareness of visibility extends beyond fear of animals. It reflects an understanding that abundance draws attention, and attention invites competition. Baskets, slings, or folded hides fill gradually. Weight is measured not only by strength but by distance to be traveled. Carrying too much slows movement, invites exhaustion, and increases vulnerability. Balance matters more than volume. Each decision accounts for the return journey, the condition of those walking it, and the likelihood of sharing what is found. Throughout the process, there is little urgency. Speed offers no advantage here. Precision and memory matter far more. The rhythm is steady, shaped by bending, standing, sorting, and moving on. Time passes almost unnoticed, marked by changes in light and temperature rather than by accomplishment. This work does not produce dramatic moments, but it rarely produces nothing. When they pause to eat small portions along the way, it is not indulgence but maintenance. Energy spent must be replaced to continue. Nothing is wasted, and nothing is consumed thoughtlessly. Even scraps have value, either as food later or as material for other uses. Survival thrives on this attention to what others might discard. By the time paths begin to curve back toward familiar ground, the true weight of this labor becomes clear. What has been gathered may not impress, but it sustains. Day after day, these quiet returns soften the risk taken elsewhere. While dramatic pursuits shape memory, it is this steady harvest that shapes survival. Without it, even the greatest success would fade quickly. In the unseen accumulation of small gains, early humans secure not just nourishment but continuity. As days pass and familiar areas grow quiet, the land itself signals when it is time to leave. Signs of use accumulate: fewer fresh tracks, plants stripped too cleanly, water levels sinking lower than expected. What once offered enough now begins to resist. Staying becomes riskier than moving, and the group senses this shift before hunger becomes severe. Memory stretches beyond the present moment, recalling other places, other seasons, and the consequences of waiting too long. Movement is never sudden. It unfolds gradually, marked by smaller adjustments at first. Paths widen as trips reach farther from the shelter, and returns take longer. Eventually, the idea of returning at all loses meaning. What was once a resting place becomes a point behind them, not a destination. The group carries only what proves essential. Everything else has already been left behind over generations, filtered out by necessity. The direction chosen follows more than instinct. It follows patterns learned over time, where animals tend to pass as temperatures shift, where water lingers when dry months arrive, where shade offers relief during relentless heat. These routes are not fixed roads but remembered tendencies, revisited and revised with each journey. Elders hold much of this knowledge, though it is rarely expressed directly. Their confidence in a direction is often enough. Travel reshapes daily routines. Time once spent searching nearby is now spent walking, scanning constantly for opportunities along the way. Food is found as it appears, not where it is expected. Small successes matter more now, maintaining strength during long stretches without certainty. Every stop is evaluated not only for what it offers today, but for what it suggests about what lies ahead. Children adapt quickly, their bodies light and flexible. They learn endurance not through instruction but through repetition. Injuries become more costly during travel, forcing the group to slow or alter course. Decisions are made with collective consequence in mind. Speed is sacrificed for cohesion, because losing one weakens all. Survival here depends less on efficiency and more on staying together. The land changes gradually as they move. Vegetation shifts, soil hardens or softens. Sounds grow unfamiliar. Each new environment requires recalibration. What was once safe may now be harmful. What was once ignored may become valuable. This constant learning sharpens awareness, but it also drains energy. Adaptation carries a cost, paid daily. Water shapes everything. Roots bend toward its presence, and pauses lengthen where it is found. Dry stretches are approached with caution, planned around known sources or seasonal flows. Misjudging distance or timing can undo weeks of careful movement. The group treats water not as a given but as a central concern, shaping decisions more strongly than food itself. As they follow animal movement, they rarely see the herds they seek immediately. Signs appear first: trampled ground, grazed plants, altered paths. These traces promise future opportunity, not immediate reward. Patience becomes essential. Those who expect instant success would abandon the effort too soon, but experience teaches that persistence often pays, if measured correctly. At night, temporary shelters replace permanence. Fires are smaller, easier to abandon. Sleep remains light, influenced by unfamiliar sounds and scents. Yet even here, routines emerge, offering comfort through repetition. Movement becomes normal, stillness temporary. Through this constant relocation, early humans avoid exhausting any single place. The land is used, not consumed. By following what moves rather than clinging to what remains, they align themselves with cycles larger than any one group. In doing so, they trade the illusion of stability for a deeper form of survival, one built on motion, memory, and respect for change. The day stretches long, but sometimes it offers nothing. Tracks lead nowhere, scents fade, and the animals they hope to find have already moved on. Hunger gnaws quietly at the edges of thought, a persistent reminder that effort does not always yield reward. The group adjusts slowly, accepting that failure is part of the rhythm of survival. There is no shame here, only the sober understanding that the land does not bend to desire. With empty hands, reliance shifts to what has been learned rather than what has been collected. Memory becomes nourishment. Places where plants are known to grow, small patches of edible roots, and the occasional eggs hidden under brush are recalled and sought. This knowledge is cumulative, passed from adult to child through observation and repeated demonstration. Even when nothing appears obvious, the patterns stored in the mind guide action. Knowledge itself becomes a form of sustenance, one that keeps the body alive until fortune changes. The disappointment of a failed hunt is not allowed to disrupt the group's cohesion. Movements remain deliberate, choices deliberate. Adults teach patience without speaking. Gestures, posture, and example convey lessons. Children absorb resilience silently, learning that hunger is both an enemy and a teacher. Empty days are remembered, stored alongside the successful ones, shaping instinct as much as experience. Food scarcity sharpens senses. Every rustle, every shadow, every shift in the wind carries new importance. The group moves carefully, conserving energy where it cannot be risked. Even the smallest signs, footprints in mud, droppings along a path, bent grasses become guides. Hunger heightens perception, turning the world into a map of possibilities, however slim. Sharing and cooperation become critical. Those who find even minor success offer it to the group. A few roots or insects can sustain more than one body when divided wisely. These small acts reinforce trust, ensuring that no failure isolates anyone completely. The social bond is as essential to survival as the food itself. By nightfall, bellies may still be empty, but the group has moved, observed, and learned. The day's failure becomes part of preparation for tomorrow. Even in hunger, survival persists through memory, cooperation, and careful attention to the land. The empty day is not wasted. It is training, shaping skills, judgment, and endurance that will determine which individuals and which groups continue on into the next sunrise. When the first morsels of food are discovered, the significance extends far beyond nourishment. A piece of meat, a handful of berries, or even a few eggs carries weight not only for the body but for the social fabric that binds the group. Hands pass items carefully, not randomly, and eyes watch closely to ensure everyone receives a portion. No one eats alone. The act of sharing transforms survival into a collective effort. In this world, isolation is deadly. Cooperation is learned early. Children observe who shares and who hoards, and which behaviors earn protection, guidance, or trust. Those who withhold are remembered, not for their cleverness but for the cost of selfishness. Even minor transgressions can disrupt balance, leaving the group weaker. Food becomes a measure of reliability, a way to test bonds and reinforce roles. Each shared portion carries an unspoken promise. Help today, and the favor may return tomorrow. The process is deliberate. Distribution follows subtle rules shaped by age, strength, and need. Elders may receive first, not for authority alone, but for the wisdom their survival represents. The weakest are not ignored, because a single lost life can endanger the rest. Everyone is accounted for, and generosity becomes survival strategy. Even small gains are amplified through sharing, sustaining more bodies than any one individual could nourish alone. There is a rhythm to this exchange. Hands move, portions are divided, and gratitude is expressed through quiet gestures rather than words. Eating is not hurried. The group watches, listens, and adapts. Food strengthens more than the body. It strengthens trust, reinforces memory of past cooperation, and encourages vigilance for future opportunity. The act of sharing is repeated often, almost ritualistically, embedding it in the daily routine as deeply as gathering itself. Conflict is rare but not impossible. Tension arises when scarcity bites sharply, and the smallest misstep can provoke dispute. Even then, survival instincts favor compromise. Groups that cannot cooperate rarely last long enough to pass on their knowledge. Hunger tests not only endurance but character, shaping behavior as powerfully as it shapes muscles and bones. As the day wanes, the group carries both physical and social energy forward. Even a small meal eaten together becomes a foundation for the work yet to come. Stories of generosity, though often silent and unspoken, cement bonds that will guide the group through the uncertainty of the next sunrise. In this delicate balance, food is more than sustenance. It is a tool, a lesson, and the glue that holds early human communities together, proving that survival is never an individual endeavor. Fire changes everything. A small spark, nurtured into flame, becomes more than warmth or light. It becomes a tool that reshapes daily life. Food that would otherwise require hours of chewing or careful inspection can now be softened, made digestible, and safer to eat. Raw roots, tough meat, and bitter tubers transform under heat, releasing flavors and nutrients that the body absorbs more efficiently. Energy gained from a cooked meal lasts longer, allowing longer travel, sharper attention, and a greater chance of success in the hunts and foraging to come. The process of cooking is deliberate. Flames are tended carefully, fed in measured amounts to avoid losing control or letting the fire die. Smoke is managed to signal presence without inviting predators. Food is positioned just above embers or over carefully arranged coals, testing timing through sight, smell, and touch. Knowledge of heat, timing, and material becomes as vital as knowing where food grows. One misstep could ruin a meal, or worse, burn valuable tools or hides. Cooking also changes social dynamics. Gatherers and hunters come together at the fire, sharing the transformed meal. It becomes a place not just of survival, but of learning. Young ones watch adults handle food, adjusting placement, stirring coals and judging doneness. Observation here is essential. The knowledge of fire management and cooking cannot be fully conveyed through words. It must be felt and imitated. The caloric advantage is immense. Meat that would fuel a single adult for part of a day can now sustain multiple bodies for longer. Hard-to-digest plants yield more energy when roasted or softened. Even small amounts of food become valuable because fire multiplies their effectiveness. This allows the group to take risks they might otherwise avoid, traveling farther or hunting larger prey because they know they can extract more from the result. Fire also extends the day. Activities no longer end with sunset. Tasks can continue under flickering light, from tool repair to food preparation, or simply watching for signs of animals moving at night. Its glow provides safety and continuity, a center around which the group orients itself. Yet even in its warmth, caution remains. Fire is unpredictable, demanding respect, constant attention and discipline. Beyond nourishment and strategy, fire shapes memory and culture. Recipes, methods, and techniques accumulate across generations. What is learned once becomes a template for survival for years to come. It binds people together, teaches patience, and allows early humans to influence their environment in ways that no other tool can. In this way, fire is more than survival. It is a turning point. It converts necessity into planning, danger into opportunity, and ordinary food into a reliable source of strength and endurance. From the earliest movements of the day, children are present, silent observers in the rhythm of survival. Every action by the adults carries meaning, though rarely explained in words. Fingers brushing over soil, the careful turning of a root, the way a branch is lifted or avoided. These small gestures are lessons in living. Children memorize patterns, associating shapes, smells and textures with safety or risk. Every observation adds to a growing internal map that will guide them long before they ever make critical decisions themselves. Learning is slow and patient. Mistakes are allowed when they do not endanger the group, but each error is noted and corrected subtly. A child reaching too close to a nest may be guided by a hand or gently pulled back. A misstep along a trail may result in a redirected step rather than a reprimand. Knowledge is never forced, it is absorbed through repetition, timing, and example. Over time, these small lessons accumulate into a repertoire of survival skills, far more reliable than instinct alone. The landscape itself becomes a teacher. Tracks, broken twigs, animal calls, and water sources are interpreted not only by the adults but by attentive young minds. When the group pauses, adults often allow children to explore a safe section of ground under careful watch. Here, curiosity is shaped into understanding. What might appear trivial, an unusual leaf, a disturbed patch of dirt, or a faint odor on the wind, becomes a clue for recognizing food, danger, or opportunity in the future. Food is central to these lessons. Children see not only how it is found, but how it is handled, prepared, and shared. They learn which plants are edible, which insects can be safely collected, and which signs indicate animals nearby. Observation teaches caution, calculation, and timing. Each meal is a demonstration of skills that cannot be fully explained, only enacted. Over time, these repeated rituals embed survival knowledge deeper than words could. Safety is intertwined with learning. Children are taught to move quietly, to respect distance from dangerous animals, and to recognize patterns of threat. Even failure becomes a lesson. A missed opportunity or a small mistake provides insight into consequences without immediate peril. By watching adults respond, how they adjust strategies, cooperate, and preserve energy, children understand the balance between risk and reward. By nightfall, the knowledge absorbed throughout the day begins to form a quiet confidence. Though bodies may be small and strength limited, The young carry a growing sense of awareness. Memory, observation, and imitation become their tools. In this way, survival is passed forward, not through possessions, not through food alone, but through experience. Knowledge itself becomes the most reliable nourishment, a source of power that sustains the group across generations, ensuring that the challenges of tomorrow may be met with skill, patience, and instinct honed through countless days of careful watching. As the sun sinks behind distant hills, shadows stretch across the land, softening the edges of the day's labor. Some return with bellies full, carrying evidence of success in roots, berries, or the meat of a hunted animal. Others come back lighter, their bodies weary from effort and hunger gnawing at their resolve. There is no shame in an empty stomach. Failure and scarcity are as natural as the rising sun, but there is no relief in it either. Each individual's condition is a reminder that survival is never certain, only persistent. Even as firelight flickers and warmth returns to the sleeping area, planning for the next day begins quietly. Adults discuss routes with gestures and glances rather than words, indicating which paths will be retraced, which signs of animals must be checked, and which locations are now exhausted. Maps exist only in memory, layered with experience, and every night adds another layer. The young observe these subtle communications, committing the lessons of movement, timing, and opportunity to memory without formal instruction. Rest is measured, not indulgent. Sleep is lighter than it appears, punctuated by the sounds of nearby creatures, the wind shifting through trees, and the occasional distant call of predators. Dreams are influenced by memory, paths traced, animals chased or missed, food gathered or lost. Even in unconscious thought, strategy and awareness continue, keeping minds tuned to the rhythm of survival. Energy is restored only partially, and vigilance remains necessary. Sharing continues through the evening. Those who have gained more than they need offer portions to others, reinforcing trust and cohesion. The act is simple yet critical. Full bodies support the weak, and cooperation ensures that the group can rise again tomorrow ready to pursue both risk and reward. Meals are rarely lavish, but they carry significance beyond taste or fullness. Each bite strengthens bonds, embeds knowledge, and prepares the mind for another day of decision and movement. Hope threads through the camp quietly, tempered by realism. Hunger sharpens attention, but success teaches patience and persistence. Each day, regardless of outcome, reinforces lessons learned and survival strategies honed over countless mornings. The group has learned that neither despair nor overconfidence will secure their needs. Only careful observation, cooperation, and the willingness to act tomorrow can do that. As night deepens, the land settles, and the group finds temporary safety. Fires burn low, tools are laid aside, and bodies curl close for warmth. Yet the search never truly ends. Even in rest, the questions linger. Where will food come from tomorrow? Which paths will lead to nourishment? Which choices will need to be made again? Survival is a cycle with no final answer, each day blending into the next. In this endless pursuit, early humans exist in a balance of hunger, hope, and knowledge, carrying both the memory of today and the uncertainty of tomorrow into the night. The first signs of morning arrive quietly, long before the sun fully reveals itself. A thin band of pale light spreads across the horizon, and the land begins to shift from darkness into shape. Tall grasses stir as the night air loosens its grip, and distant animals signal the change with low calls and sudden movement. Within a small cluster of bodies resting close together, eyes open not because they are told to, but because the world itself is stirring. There are no boundaries separating rest from wilderness. Rising happens slowly. Stiff limbs stretch, and the group becomes aware of empty stomachs before words are needed. Hunger is not alarming. It is expected, a reliable companion each morning. Attention turns outward almost immediately, scanning the land for signs of opportunity. Some move toward known patches where edible roots and fruits sometimes appear after rain. Others prepare for longer movement, checking the edges of stone tools shaped earlier and carried from place to place. There is no announcement of roles. Each person understands what is needed, because they have lived this pattern since childhood. As they move through the grass, cooperation unfolds without sound. A raised hand slows the group. A glance directs attention to disturbed earth or broken stems. Tools are not possessions but extensions of shared knowledge, stones chosen, shaped and used with intention, passed down through watching rather than instruction. When food is found, it is handled carefully, tested and divided without ceremony. Success is modest but enough to keep the day moving forward. Failure, when it happens, is accepted just as calmly. As the sun climbs higher, its heat presses down, changing the rhythm of movement. Activity eases as the group drifts toward a place where trees cast wide shadows. Here, bodies lower themselves to the ground, and the pace of thought slows. This pause is not laziness, it is understanding. Energy is preserved, wounds are tended, and the youngest rest while elders remain alert. Even in stillness, attention never fully fades. The land is watched not with fear, but with respect for its unpredictability. The afternoon brings quiet vigilance. Small signs matter: the sudden silence of birds, the direction of wind, the distant movement of large shapes. Danger is rarely dramatic, but it is always possible. Everyone shares the responsibility of noticing. Knowledge of the land lives in memory, where water collects, where predators pass, where safety can be found if movement becomes necessary. This awareness has been built slowly, day after day, across generations who learned the same lessons. As light softens and lengthens, the group draws inward. Fire is prepared where it has burned before, using embers carefully protected from the night prior. Flames rise, bringing warmth and a sense of boundary against the dark. Around this glow, the day's experiences are acknowledged through gestures, expressions, and repeated motions. Stories are not told as long narratives, but as fragments, reminders of past events, warnings, successes, and losses. Children watch closely, absorbing meaning not from words but from tone and repetition. When darkness fully settles, bodies arrange themselves near the fading fire. The sky returns vast and familiar, filled with points of light that have watched over countless nights like this one. Sleep comes not as escape, but as continuation. Tomorrow will follow a similar path, shaped by the same needs and the same land, yet always slightly different. Another ordinary day has passed, carrying humanity forward without anyone knowing it. Morning begins with warmth spreading across skin rather than sound. As the sun lifts itself above the edge of the land, eyes open one by one, adjusting to the growing brightness. The ground is cool, marked by footprints and pressed grass from the night before. Young children move first, shifting closer to familiar bodies, drawn by instinct rather than fear. Older members remain still for longer, observing the surroundings before committing to movement. Their role is not command but awareness, shaped by years of noticing what others overlook. The group gathers itself slowly, guided by the simple fact of need. Hunger shapes the day before any decision is made. There is no certainty that food will be found, and this knowledge lingers quietly among them. Some prepare to move farther, adjusting grips on worn tools, while others remain closer to camp, knowing that not every effort requires distance. A small hunting party slips away with measured steps, following paths shaped by animals rather than people. There is no excitement in their departure, only focus. Tracking demands time more than strength. The hunters lower themselves often, studying the ground where hooves or paws have pressed into soft earth. They read signs left behind hours earlier: a bent stem, a scuffed stone, a faint trail where grass has not yet risen. Progress is slow and deliberate. Each step is considered, not because the chase is dramatic, but because haste wastes energy. The possibility of returning empty-handed is always present, and it tempers every movement. Closer to where the day began, others move through familiar terrain, selecting what the land is willing to offer. Roots are loosened carefully, fruits examined for safety, insects collected without judgment. Knowledge guides these choices, built from long observation rather than instruction. What is taken today must not prevent tomorrow. The land is not challenged or controlled, only negotiated with through experience. When food is found, whether through tracking or gathering, it returns to the group without celebration. Distribution happens through habit. The youngest are served first, then those whose bodies no longer move easily, and finally the rest. On days when food is scarce, there is no argument. Hunger is endured together, and the absence of food is treated as part of life rather than failure. Strength is measured not by fullness but by survival through lean moments. Throughout the day, children absorb everything without being addressed directly. They watch hands shape tools, observe which plants are avoided, and note how attention shifts when the land changes tone. There are no lessons given in words. Learning happens through closeness and repetition, through mistakes made small enough to survive. By the time understanding is needed, it already exists. As the sun lowers, movement draws inward again. Bodies cluster closer, responding to the changing light and cooling air. Safety becomes a shared instinct, not discussed but understood. Shelter is chosen carefully, fire tended if it exists, and the group settles into stillness. Night arrives without ceremony, wrapping the land in darkness. Within that darkness, awareness remains, quiet and alert, until sleep claims it. Another day ends, shaped entirely by hunger and the path of the sun. The day begins not with movement, but with assessment. Before anyone rises fully, eyes trace the edges of the clearing, the nearby brush, the distant rise of land, where shadows still linger. Nothing dramatic is expected, yet nothing is ignored. Survival depends on noticing what has changed since nightfall. A scent carried by the wind, disturbed ground, or the absence of usual sounds can signal danger. Only after this quiet examination does the group begin to stir, satisfied that the morning holds no immediate threat. When they move, they follow routes worn into memory rather than the ground itself. These paths are not marked, yet everyone knows them. The safest ways through tall grass, the places where footing is firm, the narrow passages that offer escape if needed. Though the land appears untamed, it is deeply familiar. Each turn and pause reflects knowledge built through countless days that looked much like this one. What may seem repetitive is in truth refinement. The actions that fill the hours are the same ones performed by those who came before. Searching, shaping, carrying, and adjusting fill the day without urgency. There is no sense of monotony, because the routine itself is survival. Each small task carries weight. A stone flaked correctly lasts longer. A tool misplaced may never be replaced. Objects are few, but their value lies in what they enable: food, protection, continuity. Much of the day is spent in movement that appears uneventful. Walking stretches between moments of action. Waiting sharpens attention. Watching teaches patience. These are not empty spaces, but necessary ones. Stillness allows listening. Slow progress prevents mistakes. The land rewards those who do not rush it. In this rhythm, effort is measured carefully against energy, and nothing is wasted. Risk is never dramatic, yet it is always present. A misstep, a wrong decision, or a moment of distraction can separate life from death. This shared vulnerability binds the group more tightly than any spoken agreement. Trust forms not through promises but through consistency. Each person knows the others will respond when needed, because they always have. These bonds are tested daily, strengthened quietly through cooperation rather than conflict. As light fades, attention turns to the place where fire will be kept alive. It is not treated as a marvel, but as something essential and familiar. Flames offer warmth, discourage unseen dangers, and create a center around which the group gathers. The fire's glow softens the edges of the world, making space for rest. Hands move close to its heat, scars and calluses catching the light, evidence of lives shaped by effort. When night settles fully, bodies lower themselves near one another, positioned for both comfort and alertness. Sleep comes lightly, shaped by instinct rather than ease. Even in rest, awareness remains near the surface, ready to rise if needed. Tomorrow will ask for the same attention, the same patience, the same routine. Survival continues not through heroic acts, but through doing these ordinary things well again and again. Life unfolds without accumulation. Nothing is gathered for the sake of keeping, and nothing is held that cannot be carried easily. What endures is not material but mental, an understanding of seasons, animals, plants, and patterns written into memory rather than stored in objects. This knowledge is light enough to move with the group, yet heavy enough to shape every decision. It defines where they go, how long they stay, and when it is time to leave. The few tools that exist are chosen carefully and remain close at hand. They travel with the people who rely on them, shaped to fit a grip, worn smooth through repeated use. When a tool breaks, it is remade if possible or abandoned without hesitation. There is no sense of loss in letting go. Tools serve a moment, not a future imagined far ahead. What matters is usefulness now, not preservation. Food follows the same logic. It is taken when found and shared quickly, never hidden away for later days. The land decides what is available, and the group adapts accordingly. Eating happens when opportunity allows, and hunger returns when it must. This way of living leaves little room for anxiety about tomorrow. Attention remains fixed on the present, where survival is actually negotiated. There are no permanent structures marking ownership or return. Shelter appears where it is needed and disappears just as easily. Branches, hides, and natural formations offer protection for a short time, then are left behind without ceremony. The absence of fixed dwellings makes movement easier, and movement itself becomes a habit rather than a response. Staying too long risks depletion or danger, leaving ensures renewal. Days pass without being counted. Time is not divided into units, but felt through change, light shifting, temperature rising, shadows lengthening. There is no urgency to mark progress or measure age. Life is experienced as a continuous flow rather than a sequence. Memory stretches backward through stories and observation, but the future remains undefined, shaped only by the next need. As the day fades, the group finds itself close again, not by design but by instinct. The same bodies that scattered earlier now gather in familiar proximity. Sharing space offers reassurance in a world that offers little certainty. The absence of possessions leaves room for connection. What one person knows or notices benefits all. When darkness settles, rest comes without separation. The day ends much as it began, grounded in togetherness rather than place. Nothing has been added, nothing stored away. Yet everything necessary has been carried forward. Knowledge, trust, and the quiet understanding of how to live lightly within a demanding world. The day unfolds without any sense of importance, yet it is shaped by decisions that quietly matter. Each action, no matter how small, carries weight beyond the moment. A hand hesitates before striking stone, adjusting the angle by instinct rather than calculation. The result is a sharper edge, barely noticeable at first, but easier to use and slower to dull. No one marks this improvement, yet it will influence every task that follows. Such changes slip into daily life unnoticed, accumulating over time. Movement through the land brings constant opportunities for choice. A path is altered slightly to avoid loose ground. A sound in the distance draws attention sooner than it might have before. When danger reveals itself, a warning comes faster, cutting through the air and redirecting the group just in time. No discussion follows. The moment passes, absorbed into memory as another example of what works and what does not. Survival leaves little room for reflection, yet experience is never wasted. Nearby, a child watches everything. There is no formal teaching, only proximity. Small hands mimic the motions they observe, striking stones that chip incorrectly, lifting tools that feel awkward. Failure is part of learning, accepted without correction, unless it becomes dangerous. Over time, movement becomes smoother, decisions quicker, knowledge transfers silently, carried forward not through instruction, but through imitation repeated again and again. Fire remains a steady presence, not as a marvel, but as a responsibility. Embers are guarded carefully, fed when needed, shielded from wind and rain. No one claims credit for its existence. What matters is that it continues. It dries food, warms bodies, and creates a sense of safety after darkness falls. Maintaining it requires attention, and that attention becomes habit. Losing it would mean more effort tomorrow, so it is protected today. As the day progresses, memories form without intention. Successful actions are remembered in the body, not the mind. Hands recall how much force is needed. Eyes recognize patterns in movement and terrain. These memories are not recorded or spoken aloud, yet they persist, shaping future behavior. The past is carried forward through repetition rather than story. When evening arrives, the group settles with the quiet satisfaction of having endured. No achievements are celebrated, no milestones marked. Another cycle has been completed. The day has altered the future in ways no one can see, adding small refinements to how life is lived. Survival itself is the outcome, and that is enough. Humanity moves forward not through grand moments, but through days like this one, ordinary and unremarkable, yet full of consequence. Morning begins in stillness, long before movement overtakes the land. Eyes open not in haste, but with a purpose shaped by anticipation. Decisions have already formed in silence. Which direction to travel, where the ground will be safest, what tasks will take priority. There is no conversation to begin the day. Planning exists as thought woven into every body, each gesture anticipating the next action follows naturally, guided by foresight rather than command. As they move, the land itself becomes a text to be read. Tracks pressed into soft soil, broken stems, and scattered stones all carry meaning. Each footprint tells a story of animals that passed hours ago, where they came from, where they might go, how fast, and in what state. Reading these signs demands patience and focus. Understanding them is not instinct alone, but experience layered over generations. Knowledge accumulates quietly in the minds of those who observe, shaping every step. Hands and fingers know the world intimately. Leaves, roots, and seeds are recognized by touch, weight, and texture rather than sight alone. Plants are not simply food or danger. They are markers of seasons, signals of water, and tools for survival. The ability to discern these differences quickly separates opportunity from misstep. It is a skill passed not by lecture but through proximity. The young mimic motions, feeling what the elders feel, slowly building a sense of what is safe, what is nourishing, what is best left untouched. Strength is measured less in muscle than in coordination and timing. Tasks that could be completed by force are instead accomplished through shared effort. One guides, another lifts, a third steadies, all moving together without instruction. Cooperation outweighs brute effort, because survival depends on harmony more than power. The group moves as one organism, responding to the world collectively, aware that individual might alone cannot meet the challenges of a shifting environment. Knowledge transfers without speech. Hands, eyes, and bodies teach more than words could. A demonstration of how to scrape a stone, lift a root, or secure fire communicates lessons that are remembered through doing rather than repetition. Watching and imitating forms the core of education, silently shaping understanding in the young and reinforcing skill in the experienced. The group functions as a living classroom, its lessons embedded in action and repetition. Fire is neither spectacle nor luxury. It is a shared responsibility, its warmth and smoke woven into the rhythm of the day. Everyone contributes, some tending embers, others adding fuel, all mindful of its fragility and importance. Its presence is a signal of order within the wild, a reminder of the group's collective care. When darkness comes, thought does not cease. Minds replay movements, plan for tomorrow, and integrate lessons of the day into memory. Dreams are extensions of vigilance and reflection, continuing the quiet work begun at first light. Life is measured in these subtle processes, a network of observation, cooperation, and attention that moves slowly but decisively toward mastery over circumstance. The intelligence of early humans lies not in words but in the depth of these unseen understandings. The day begins without certainty. Light spills over the horizon, revealing a world that offers neither promise nor warning beyond what the senses can detect. Each morning carries the same unknowns as the last, whether food will be found, whether the paths ahead are safe, whether the small signs of animals or weather will be in their favor. No one speaks of these possibilities. They are understood, carried silently by every movement and glance. The unknown is not feared, it is simply present, shaping each decision and step. Hunger is immediate, insistent, and impartial. It drives movement before curiosity or play can intervene. Searching for roots, fruits, or small game occupies hands and eyes, and the body responds instinctively to the need for energy. There is no room for delay. Every choice is weighed against the possibility of empty stomachs. Every motion a negotiation with the land. Hunger is not lamented. It is a quiet motivator, reminding the group that life is contingent on effort and attention. Even as they move, danger is never absent. Predators, weather, or unseen threats exist in the background of every action. They are never front and center, yet they are acknowledged continuously through posture, alert eyes, and the arrangement of bodies within the group. Listening, scanning, and adjusting become habitual. Awareness does not tire, because complacency carries real consequences. Life persists only when vigilance matches need. Trust within the group forms the foundation of movement and decision. Everyone knows that others will act without being told, that warnings will be raised when necessary, and that support will appear in moments of strain or misstep. Cooperation arises from experience rather than instruction. It is embedded in routine. Bonds are strengthened by the shared understanding that each life depends on the reliability of others. Loss occurs with regularity. A missed hunt, a wounded companion, or the disappearance of someone from the group is neither dramatic nor ceremonial. There are no rituals to process grief. Acknowledgement is quiet, almost internal. Survival is measured not in what is mourned, but in what continues. Continuity itself becomes the marker of success. Each small triumph of persistence matters more than any recognition. Evening does not guarantee comfort. Shelter is chosen carefully, fire is protected, and bodies rest with one eye and ear tuned to the night. Sleep is not assumed, it is earned. Only when the body has endured hunger, navigated danger, and maintained vigilance does rest come fully. And even then lightly, because tomorrow will demand the same attention. In this way, every ordinary day carries the weight of the extraordinary. The simple act of living through it is itself an achievement, shaping knowledge, skill, and the quiet resilience that will carry humanity forward. From the first light of morning, the smallest members of the group are close to adult bodies, carried against warm skin or nestled in simple slings of hide. They move with the rhythm of the day, never abandoned, always observed. Their presence shapes the pace of activity. Steps are measured, hands are careful, and gestures are deliberate. Even before they can walk or speak, these children absorb the patterns of survival, learning not through instruction, but through constant proximity to action. Observation is the earliest form of education. Small hands mimic motions, eyes follow repeated gestures, and curiosity guides tentative experimentation. A child crouches beside an elder, shaping a tool, touching the edge, feeling the balance and resistance, and learning its potential without needing words. Every motion is a lesson, every mistake a safe opportunity to understand cause and effect. Knowledge is transferred quietly, woven into the daily rhythm rather than formalized in speech. Play mirrors the serious tasks of survival. Children dig in the soil, lift stones, and move sticks in imitation of hunting or building. Even laughter and tumbling carry instruction, understanding weight, timing, and coordination, refining motor skills that will later be essential for gathering, carrying, or defending. What looks like amusement is preparation. The games of youth are practice for the realities of adult life. Elders guide subtly. A hand adjusts posture. A gaze directs attention. A slow demonstration reveals technique. Nothing is demanded or corrected harshly. The young are encouraged to repeat, to explore, and to internalize lessons at their own pace. The wisdom of age flows not in command but in example. Through these silent interventions, children absorb not only skill but also values, patience, awareness, and respect for the land and the group. Food distribution reinforces this hierarchy of care. The youngest are fed first, their needs anticipated before those of others. This is not indulgence, but recognition of vulnerability and investment in the future. They learn the importance of sharing, of responsibility, and the implicit trust that the group will provide protection and sustenance. Hunger is managed collectively, and the rhythm of giving teaches balance and empathy. When evening arrives, the group gathers around the fire, and the youngest settle close. Shadows flicker across faces, and stories are enacted more than spoken, gestures and sounds carrying meaning that is absorbed naturally. Tales of hunts, close calls, and past successes are repeated not for entertainment alone, but to anchor identity. Children learn where they belong, how the group functions, and what it means to live within this shared world. As night deepens, bodies curl near one another, and the youngest fall asleep to warmth, motion, and subtle narrative rhythms. Through observation, play, and gentle guidance, they have absorbed the essential patterns of life. Each ordinary day passes as both practice and inheritance, ensuring that the knowledge, skills, and identity of the group are carried forward into the next generation. Light shifts over the horizon, and the day begins not with a voice or bell, but with the rising sun itself. Its early rays touch the faces of those who have slept under open skies, signaling the start of activity. Eyes adjust to the brightness, and bodies rise in response to the subtle cues of warmth and illumination. There is no schedule imposed, no abstract measure of hours. Time is defined entirely by the movement of the sun and the changing patterns of light across the land. As the sun climbs, heat becomes a silent regulator. Activity slows in its intensity, and bodies seek shade where it is offered. Rest is dictated not by desire, but by necessity. The ground, the breeze, and the open sky shape the rhythm of labor. Those who ignore the signals of the natural world risk exhaustion or misstep. Even the most urgent tasks are tempered by the awareness that energy is finite and must be conserved according to environmental cues. Shadows govern decisions as much as sunlight. The position of trees, rocks, and hills signals where movement is safest, where the ground is firmest, and when the heat will become oppressive. Choices are made in relation to these shifting markers. A place that offers shelter in the morning may become unbearably hot by noon. Awareness of these patterns allows for efficient travel, hunting, and gathering, ensuring that effort aligns with the demands of the environment rather than against it. Seasons impose a longer-term order on the day. Rainfall, flowering, migration, and temperature dictate where the group can move and what sustenance is available. Water must be found, game followed, and plants collected at the appropriate moment. Life is a negotiation with these cycles. Preparation for change is built into the daily routine, even if the group does not name the months or mark the passage of time formally. Adaptation is constant, and planning is informed by careful observation rather than prediction. Control is an illusion, and the group lives in quiet acceptance of this reality. The land cannot be commanded, the weather cannot be altered, and wild animals cannot be restrained. Instead, the day is structured around flexibility, moving when needed, pausing when prudent, and taking advantage of every opportunity without forcing it. Success is measured by endurance and responsiveness, not by imposing will upon the environment. Nightfall arrives as both signal and caution. Darkness announces a pause in activity, a time to gather close, and an occasion for vigilance. It marks safety in proximity to fire or shelter, yet danger in what cannot be seen. The group adjusts instinctively, finding warmth and security while remaining alert. Sleep becomes an act of trust in the shared knowledge that survival depends on understanding and responding to the cycles that govern all life. In a world ruled entirely by nature's clock, every movement, every pause, and every choice is a reflection of the quiet authority of the sun, the heat, the shadows, and the unyielding march of the seasons. Morning opens as it always has, with pale light spilling across familiar terrain. The same contours of earth, the same rising shapes of hills and trees, greet eyes that have seen countless dawns like this one. Movements are predictable yet precise. Bodies stretch, awaken, and gather without instruction, repeating gestures that have been performed for generations. To an outsider, it may seem monotonous, but each motion carries the quiet weight of survival honed over lifetimes. The work of the day unfolds with subtle variation. Stones are shaped a fraction more efficiently, fire is coaxed with slightly better technique, traps are set with attention informed by years of observation. Each small refinement seems minor in the moment, almost imperceptible, yet these incremental improvements accumulate, carrying forward wisdom that is never formally recorded. In this way, knowledge grows slowly, almost invisibly, embedded in hands, eyes, and memory. Life is measured in repetition rather than innovation. There is no concept of progress in the abstract. Each generation experiences the day as it comes, expecting the rhythm to continue and relying on patterns observed from those who came before. Awareness of history or achievement does not guide behavior. Instead, repetition itself secures continuity. By acting consistently, humans shape their world and adapt to it, even without reflection or conscious ambition. Movement, foraging, hunting, and tending to fire occupy hours that stretch without variation in form, but not in detail. Every choice made today has echoes of countless prior days. The land and its resources are known intimately, and responses to its challenges are guided by instincts refined over uncounted iterations of this same day. Survival does not rely on sudden brilliance, but on consistent engagement and careful observation repeated endlessly. Children imitate adults as they have for millennia, unaware of the lineage of behavior they inherit. The young absorb skill and awareness naturally, carrying forward patterns that will themselves become ordinary to the next generation. Humanity is forming in this repetition, not through dramatic events, but through small, continuous acts of adaptation, cooperation, and endurance. Evening draws the group together in familiar spaces. Fire is maintained, food shared, bodies rested. The sky darkens in patterns that have been the same for ages. Tomorrow is assumed, expected, but never guaranteed. Each night ends with both continuity and uncertainty, with sleep earned only by attentiveness and care. Through these cycles, one day blends into the next. What seems ordinary, even repetitive, is the foundation upon which humanity is built. Civilization has not yet been imagined, yet the careful, uncelebrated actions of countless days shape the mind, the body, and the social bonds that will carry humans forward. Life continues, persistent and unnoticed, each day both like the last and subtly different.